Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today, we're taking a little break from mob movies, and today we'll be talking about a horror movie. This movie is called The Silence of the Lambs. You've probably heard about it for the wildly famous Hannibal Lecter, so I think we should get right into this. I don't think there's any perfect way to describe Silence of the Lambs without making myself look like an idiot. The thing is, there are already some brilliant videos done on this film. To name one, How to Terrify the Audience by the Closer Look. That is one of my personal favorites, and we'll also speak about some points made in that video too. Today, instead of doing my usual review format, I want to analyze two brilliant scenes and then talk about how I think about them, and then do some review stuff after. So the first scene is probably the most famous, when Jodie Foster meets Hannibal Lecter. So, we go down this hallway on level after level of insanity. A smiling man, a man who is completely despondent to the world, and one who is jumping around all over the place. And then Hannibal, who is just standing there. The thing about this scene is, it's great. It's so well done. And I actually went to the Museum of the Moving Image in Queens, and they had the model of this cell block, and it makes a lot more sense like that. But as you get more and more crazy, you understand this is the most crazy person, and it doesn't have to tell you that. The movie isn't like, oh my god, that's Hannibal Lecter, the craziest man on earth. No, it does that very subtly, and it's very good. The other scene that I want to talk about, spoilers ahead, is the scene where Starling is in the complete dark and Buffalo Bill is chasing her. And I think this is so good because you get to see from the killer's perspective how terrified our main character is. We've grown a connection with Starling by now, so at this point we want to see her win. But looking at her like this, so vulnerable from the perspective of someone so dangerous, it's so well done. Can we talk about this shot for a moment? It's great. It's a great shot. The music is also pretty good. When it plays, you kind of get an understanding of how the scene is going to be. You understand if the scene is going to be terrifying or if it's going to be heartwarming or something. It's mainly going to be terrifying. This movie also just feels dirty. That sounds weird to say, but like there's a clue to the mystery is bugs. There's dirt caking the walls of Buffalo Bill's house. Everything is messy there. And it's also very edgy. This is like one of the first edgy movies of all time. I should also quickly mention that this movie won 5 Oscars, and not just 5 Oscars, the big 5. Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Sound Mixing, Best Film Editing, Best Actor, and Best Actress, and Best Picture. So yeah, it's a pretty solid movie. I think that it is very, I've mentioned this, but it's very edgy to be edgy. There are a lot of shots in this movie that we didn't need that are very edgy. We didn't need this. We did not need this. It's tiny bit disgusting, some scenes, but this movie is made to be disgusting. I, for one, believe that Hannibal should have been used so much more. He is pretty much the face of this movie. When you think Silence of the Lambs, you don't think Buffalo Bill, you think Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter, the face of this film, the most well-known part about this movie, gets 24 minutes of screen time. So you see a lot of Jodie Foster, obviously. But think about this: 24% is about 21% of the movie's total runtime, and it's a little bit, but for someone so large in this movie, he only shows up for a minuscule amount. The performances are on point. I mean, I think whenever I'm talking about like the acting in this movie, I think it would always be bumped up 3 points by Anthony Hopkins' performance as Hannibal Lecter. Going back to the screen time problem, though, I think he could have been used so much more. We get to see him pull a leather face and take off someone's face as a mask, and then it cuts. I feel like there was actually supposed to be something there, like a very creative death, like getting smothered with this face, or something. But I feel like definitely there could have been some great things. But overall, this movie is really something. This movie is great. There are some on-point performances, and I think that everything about this movie is so rewatchable. Like, I will definitely watch this movie again and again. I've done my research and stuff. I've looked up at all of these things on Wikipedia and stuff, but I still feel like there's more to discover while watching this movie. Without further ado, let's get on to the numbers. It's me, Numbers Man. Today we'll be crunching the numbers for The Silence of the Lambs. First off, cinematography. The cinematography in this movie is pretty good. There are some shots that are awesome, and there's just so-so shots here and there. But I think this movie is pretty good on its shots. It doesn't bring anything new to the table, but it still manages to be very good. So we're gonna give the cinematography an 8.5 out of 10. Second off, the soundtrack. The soundtrack for this movie is pretty damn good. I mean, I don't think I have many problems with it. It's very solid. There were some scenes where I think that it could have been utilized more. Like, there was a scene that didn't have music that could have definitely had music, but there are some scenes that didn't have music that definitely didn't need music. You know the one I'm talking about. So we're gonna give the soundtrack an 8.5 out of 10 again. The acting is a 10 out of 10. Anthony Hopkins in this movie delivers such a convincing performance, and Jodie Foster too. I don't think when we see Silence of the Lambs, we couldn't imagine anybody else in these roles. Yeah, I think it's very, very good. It's bridging. I think it changes for me like every day. Is it a 10 out of 10? Is it a 9.9 out of 10? What is it? That's such a dumb statement to make. The fourth thing we have is the writing. I think the writing is absolutely brilliant. There's nothing bad about the writing. I think that there were some scenes where it did just tell us what was happening, and not showed us what was happening. But I feel like it's very solid. So 9.5 out of 10. And for the final one, story, 10 out of 10. There's no debate here. It's a 10 out of 10. The story is very fluid. It feels full and complete. So yeah. So crunching all the numbers, I'm going to give The Silence of the Lambs a 9 out of 10.
Now, I'd really love to talk more about how I love this movie, but I'm meeting an old friend for dinner.